Welcome back to the studio. Today we're diving into something important, something that I know is on the minds of a lot of you watching. You have spent years honing your craft, developing your technical skills, and now you're wondering, could I turn this passion for painting into something full-time? Can I make a living off of my art? It's a big question, and while it's really easy to get caught up in the idea of selling art and going pro, there's some crucial things that you need to understand before you take that leap. Because if you don't go into this journey with your eyes wide open, there is a risk. You could take the thing that you love most in this world, the hobby you're most passionate about, and start to feel really resentful, burnt out, or just start wondering where the spark has gone. The last thing I want is for the thing that has brought you joy to start feeling like a burden, or for you to dedicate years to going full-time only to realize that that's not what you actually wanted, or that you weren't set up for success in that big journey. A lot of people love painting, but running a business is a separate skill altogether. It's one that you might not enjoy, even though it does relate to your artwork. The truth is, you're not going to know if you thrive selling your artwork or if it drains you until you actually try it. If you're thinking about taking your painting to the next level, I want you to stick with me in this video, because by the end of this video, you're going to have a really clear understanding of the real steps that you need to take to go pro without losing the love of your art. So let's go ahead and dive into what you need to know about going full-time with oil painting. The first thing you need to know is that if you're serious about becoming a full-time oil painter, you simply cannot wait for the perfect moment to start putting your work out there. There is this idea that you need a whole body of work, a completed portfolio, and that the artwork has to be unimpeachable and perfect for you to feel like you have arrived as an artist before you actually start selling your art. But the truth is, that moment might not come. It's kind of like that maxim you hear about having kids. Like, there is no right time to have kids. You will never feel ready. The same is true about putting yourself out there with respect to your art. The best time to actually start is now, because you won't really know if you enjoy selling your work until you actually try it. I want to fess up to something. I absolutely feed in to, I think, this narrative that I'm describing of you need to get your work to a really solid place before you focus on the selling. And I do stand by that. It's important for you to launch a career, like to go full-time, based on the kind of work that you would be thrilled to sell and to produce over and over again. But there's a difference between starting to get comfortable with sales and starting your art business and going full-time with it. That's the distinction that I think is genuinely important here. So if you've been telling yourself that you're not going to focus on sales yet because the work isn't perfect or your website's not ready, you need to put yourself out there now. You might not put yourself out there in a full-time way. You might feel like there's absolutely significant improvement you want to make in your painting. The skill of selling is a skill, just like the skill of painting is, and you're going to be set up for success if you actually develop these two things in tandem. So again, it's not that you have to go out and launch a full-time career on work that you're not yet really proud of, but it is really helpful to practice putting your work out there and to prove that selling is something that you actually enjoy. And if you realize that you don't enjoy it at this stage, that's actually great, because now you can focus on the aspects of painting that are going to bring you way more joy. The thing is, it is not more virtuous to sell your work than it is to create work for your own enjoyment. And if you realize that your fulfillment is your true North Star rather than dollar signs, that is incredibly empowering. Next, even if you are not 100% proud of what you're making yet, I want you to begin by offering work to those closest to you, so your friends and family. Those are the people who already have a relationship with you, and that relationship will make them way more excited to invest in your art. So it's natural to feel nervous about this, but the reality is that selling art involves way more no's than yeses. And the people closest to you, well, for one, they're way more likely to say yes. And they're much more likely to let you down gently than a random stranger if they just don't happen to be in a place to buy art, or if they're not interested in a particular piece right now. But if they do say yes, let them pay you. I cannot tell you how many painters whom I have talked to who literally had friends and family asking to buy pieces, and they thought, well, they're just being nice, and I don't know if I could take money for this piece, and I don't know if I want to take money from my friends. And so they literally let like months or years go by. And when they're interested in starting up their art business, I ask if anyone has expressed interest in a piece before. They mention, this uncle or this friend who really loved a piece. And I'll ask like, perfect, that's great. Do you still have the piece? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, fantastic, why don't you go and like offer that painting back up to that person? And the response I get is always, I don't know, I think that would be really awkward. And I don't think that they would actually want it. I think they were just being nice. And they wind up, one, like not validating that their work is sellable because they're not comfortable putting themselves out there. And two, they've actually deprived someone who cares about them from the opportunity to actually collect their art. Which brings me to the next thing. One of the most important things I've learned, and what many of my students have learned, is that you must get comfortable putting yourself out there. If you wait for perfect confidence before sharing your work or before offering a sale, you might never make a move. The truth is, confidence grows through action, not as a precursor to action. This reminds me of something that I was actually reading about. I read business books for fun, and I was reading this past weekend the book $1 Million Weekend. And in it, the author gives a very simple but very powerful challenge to anyone thinking about starting a business. He challenges the reader. Next time that you're buying a cup of coffee, ask the cashier if they'll give you 10% off. All you would do is walk up to the cashier, place your order, and then say, hey, and could I get 10% off that order? And then you stop. You literally don't say anything else. Sounds simple, right? So it turns out to be really surprisingly hard. The vast majority of people are too uncomfortable to even ask for a discount. And those who do often make excuses or they let the cashier off the hook. I could totally see myself in this situation saying something like, sorry, I'm just like doing this weird challenge and I like need to ask. Or it's totally okay if you can't give it to me. I just wanted to check. That's not the challenge though. The challenge is to make the ask and literally let there be silence and then to get comfortable with the rejection. Because the truth is, you're going to get rejected here. It's very rare that someone actually can come through with a 10% off discount at like a chain coffee shop. And immediately on hearing this challenge, I thought about the painters who tell me that they're serious about making a living from their art, but they wouldn't dream of going back to a friend or a relative to ask if they'd actually like to pay them for a painting. Incidentally, like what I often find is, well, maybe I could offer them a commission. And if they're really happy with the piece and it's made just for them, then I could let them pay me. But that's not what's going to be necessary for you to actually make a full-time living from your art unless your goal is only to paint commissions. The point is, you have to be willing to hear a no and to move through that gracefully, whether it's from a cashier or a potential art collector. That is one of the really necessary skills for actually running an art business. Next, let's talk about the financial side. If your goal is to become a full-time painter, you need to get a clear picture of your numbers. So start by running the numbers on how much you're spending on art supplies, classes, and anything related to your practice. Then calculate the average amount of money that you make from each painting sale. Figure out how long it took you to make that painting. And if you only sell a percentage of the pieces that you make, it can also be helpful to say, okay, if I only ever sell a third of the paintings I create, I'm not just having to recoup my investment of time and materials on the painting that sells. I need to make sure that I'm recouping time and materials on the paintings that don't. That's not to say that you would have people pay you based on an hourly rate, but it's really important to genuinely have a grasp of these numbers, both your expenses and what you actually make from your paintings and how reliable those sales can become. Once you have those numbers, calculate how many paintings you would need to sell each month to cover those costs. And as a bonus, you can calculate how many paintings you need to make each month in order to reasonably predict that number of sales. If you're able to do this, fantastic. If you're able to cover your costs, that's huge. Now, think bigger. Can you cover some of your non-art expenses, like your electric bill or your internet or your groceries, or maybe even your rent with your art sales? All right, next, I want to explore a topic that is a little bit uncomfortable, and that is a lot of people have a vision in their heads that making money from your art means going into the studio every day, brimming with creativity, painting what is in your soul, getting it onto the canvas with ease, posting it to Instagram at the end of the day, and then while your head is resting on the pillow at night, you have sales pour in from anonymous internet strangers. And that is just not true. I know a lot of different artists. Just because I'm here on YouTube doesn't mean all of my artist friends are also YouTubers. In fact, most of them are not. I'm friends with artists who make a living in a lot of different ways, and I have never known this to be the case for a single one of them. Most artists who actually do this full time have to actively hone their marketing skills and work hard to sell their original paintings. Or they supplement with a lot of commission work, workshops, or teaching classes. The truth is, there is no way to create a profitable art business without working just as hard on your business skills as you do your painting skills. And if that doesn't align with the dream that you have, it actually is probably going to be way more fun and empowering to realize that right now and just focus on your painting skills from the get-go. Okay, and on a somewhat related topic, this next tip might sound obvious, but I cannot stress it enough. Consistency in your painting practice is key. This is true whether you're wanting to make art for your own fulfillment or whether you're doing it for a full-time business. Full-time artists don't have the luxury of painting when the mood strikes. Similarly, you don't really have the luxury of working on marketing or sales when the mood strikes. You need to set up regular studio hours and be disciplined in how you approach your craft and the production of inventory that you actually use to make money off of. I would think of it like building a muscle. Every time you paint, you are strengthening that creative muscle. And so whether it's about creating consistency for yourself or creating consistency for your business, it is really pivotal that you actually make this a priority. You really can't afford to just paint when you feel like it. And with all of this real talk around goals, this next piece kind of goes hand in hand with what I've been talking about, and it might be something that you don't want to hear, but selling your art just might not be your true goal. Many painters think they need to monetize their art, but when they try, they find that it just drains the joy that they once felt, being able to come home from a day job and paint after work to unwind. If selling your art doesn't light you up, I want to say right now, loud and clear, it is okay to step back and reassess. Ask yourself what you truly want out of your painting practice. Is it the satisfaction of creating something meaningful or that comes right out of your soul? Or do you genuinely enjoy the process of selling your work and managing the finances and the expenses and running a business? There's no wrong answer here, but it's vital to know your why before you dive into a professional art journey in a big way. And if your big goal is to sell your work and build a career from it, the final thing I want to leave you with is that you need to take action. I have found this is a key indicator of success for my students. In fact, I don't bring students into my mentorship program if their goal is business-oriented unless they've already made sales, because it is way easier to help you to strengthen existing sales skills and build up a portfolio to do that when you aren't worried about actually putting the work out there, because you're already just comfortable putting the work out there, and you know because you've actually put in work in selling before that point. What I really love focusing on is taking someone in that position and then helping them to actually elevate their portfolio so they can trust that they can use their existing sales skills and make even more profit and derive even more enjoyment from what they're making. If a student already has made a couple of sales, it shows me that they're serious, they're action takers who are committed to doing the work. Taking that first step is really essential. And I want to leave you with this. It's not necessarily about me being able to help you. I genuinely believe this regardless of what the ideal path forward is for you. One other thing, and this is a really important note. Okay, I know I said finally on the last one, but this one last thing is really genuinely important, so I'm making sure I include this. If you're going to make painting a full-time pursuit, make sure it genuinely aligns with your personal vision. It's so easy to get caught up in what sells or what's popular, but if you sacrifice your artistic voice for commercial success, you're going to eventually feel really disconnected from your own work, and this will start to feel like an office job. The artists who have really long careers that are also really fulfilling careers are the ones who genuinely paint from a place of authenticity, not just marketability. The key is to paint the way that aligns with your goals and your passion, whether or not you've seen that proven through sales from other people. I always recommend to my students, figure out what is near and dear to your heart first. Chances are, if you can find examples of this out in the world, you're going to see that the artists making that work are actually making money from it, which is really good. But there's a difference between that and knowing that like pet portraits sell well, so I'm going to paint pet portraits, even though my real passion is alla prima human portraiture, for instance. I find that when artists actually tap into what they want to produce and they prioritize that first, the passion and the care and the craft really come through in the final piece. And so even though you might feel like you're going out on a limb right now, the reality is that that will come through in the work. And when you put those pieces of artwork in front of the right collector, they're going to be really motivated to buy. One other thing that I want to mention. I know that there are a lot of knowledgeable sources out there talking about how to sell art. I feel like there's like more videos on YouTube than ever on this topic. And I, have my own videos in the mix that I've made before now. It is a really in-demand topic. And I think the great news is that having a lot of perspectives is really helpful. But I think even more than that, I think it's really encouraging just how much of a common thread there is, no matter who you're listening to on this. But I know you probably listened to a lot of people talk about this. I want to reassure you that I'm genuinely speaking from my own experience. I'm not telling you what works in theory about selling art. I'm in the studio creating and sharing my paintings here on YouTube every week. All of those paintings go up for sale. I've sustained myself full-time on my painting sales and commissions alone, so I've seen firsthand the realities of making this work long-term. I want to be clear, if you watch my videos and you love them and you even listen to this and want my help, my focus is on helping artists to create the kind of work they genuinely would love to make and be really proud to produce. I'm not a business coach, and I don't specialize in helping artists to reach their business goals, but I do want to use this video to share what I've learned from helping dozens of artists to put together work that they did launch their careers off of. And I also just want to share my own personal experience. I hope this is genuinely helpful for anyone interested in selling your work, and I hope you feel really confident that you can trust the advice that I'm giving you here in this video, because all of it is advice that I actively give and actively had to give myself in order to make this happen in my own journey. So there you have it. The things that you need to know before deciding to go full-time as an oil painter. It's not just about making money from your art. It is about aligning your passion, your practice, and your purpose. Becoming a full-time artist is not easy. I hope this video helps to just underscore that there is a lot of work. There's a lot of very unsexy things that you have to dive into, especially if the dream is just to be painting. There is a lot of work on the marketing and the business side and the sales side that has to happen in order to really make a living from your work. But if you really stay true to what drives you, if you listen to your North Star and you actually take these steps and you test this out, if you realize that you love the business side, it can be really deeply fulfilling. If this video actually helped you to realize that you want to kind of protect your artwork as something that is just personal and just for your own fulfillment, I think that, like I said earlier in this video, it is not more worthwhile or more virtuous to be selling your artwork. And so I hope that this has been just really useful in terms of helping to connect you to what's going to make you genuinely happy. And if you are really serious about getting the most out of your artwork, whether that's like taking a professional leap or whether it is simply making artwork for your own fulfillment, I would love to help you. You can book a free consultation call with me. There's a link down in the description. And we can use that call to discuss your goals, create a plan, and then see if this path is truly the right one for you. I look forward to connecting. And until next time, keep creating, stay consistent, and happy painting.